Me?
So I did all those things and I wasn't even live. Now I'm
Shout it
live.
over. It's okay.
So
It
I'm
is
just
what
gonna
it
go
is.
back and just talk about so I was just saying when I wasn't live that I'm doing things differently. One, the first thing that I'm doing differently is not even going live. Two, what I'm doing differently is I'm working from home, which is obviously not a good idea on production day. And three, we're working the way that I've been used to working before 2020, right? And so the theme for today is what are we learning? Um, in 2020, what are we bringing into 2021? So I have you on camera right now. I brought a few other colleagues and friends. So I wanted to just kind of like have a discussion. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to bring everybody in, but then I'm going to like call on y'all. Okay, cool, cool.
Yep,
All right,
absolutely.
so I'm going to introduce me. I'm Julia Gambale with Agents of Branding. I've been running this thing, if you believe it or not, for 10 years. And then Noon helped me pick it up and bring it into the live stream realm. So I'm super grateful for that. So that's something that I learned in 2020. And then I'm here with Zeph Zan, definitely. And you have like a lot of things going on. You have Entrepreneurs That Soar, and you have your Momentum Tribe, and I know you're going to have something else happening. I'm going to let you talk about.
Yeah.
I'm also bringing Rebecca Mead up, and she's from Inc. Creative and Consulting. And I've known Rebecca I know we talked about this like 12
Let's just
years.
say eons, because
Yeah,
I think that
yeah,
sounds
I
better.
know. 12 years sounds less than eon. And then I'm gonna bring Randy Spina, and Randy, I had you on last week, and that was like a great conversation. And I have one more that I'm going to bring on. I swear I'm going to see him this time. I'm going to bring Lance on.
Hi, everyone.
So these are all my friends, my colleagues. I've known all of you for, I would say, at least 7, 8, 9, 10 years or something like that. And I really wanted to talk about our perspective from this year and what we see going on in 2021. And Zach, I'm going to start with you, and then kind of like go around the circle the way that I see it, at least. So I'm going to go Zach, Rebecca. I'm going to go with Circle, Randy, and Lance, and then we're just going to we're going to chat it up. So Zach, what's been going on for 2020, and what do you see in 2021? Like in a few minutes, like a couple. Give me like a 1 or 2 minute worth.
Wow. Okay. So I think in the world that I live in, right, and in my world of specialty, and that's one of the reasons, one of the things that I spoke at Digital Media Sing is the fact that everyone's going to be showing up in some sort of a video broadcast or live video broadcast. Then they would need to include that in their marketing toolbox, right? And one of the things that people have been doing a lot in 2020 is what? It became a verb, and it's called Zooming. I'm a little bit allergic to the word Zoom, but that's okay, right? What works for everybody out there, works great. So that's what has been happening. I think the most primary thing that has been happening in 2020, and it still is. And, the word became a verb. And this was something that I predicted almost 10 years ago when I started my own journey with live video broadcasts, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, it came up from my own need to start the business. So this, when we have all these quarantines and lockdowns, there wasn't any way for us to have meetings or have in-person events, right? And people kind of congregated to online meeting rooms, and doesn't matter what platform we all are using, right? We are meeting this way, and our face-to-face was this way, right? So that was what I think, in a nutshell, everybody, whether, I network a lot, and I meet so many people who in the past have said like, I don't know, video calls, meeting in this way.
Yeah.
Like it,
Now
because
it's
we prefer,
yeah.
in-person events. And I'm like, someday you're just gonna have to learn how to do this, right?
Yeah.
And this is something that I think that everybody in 2020, almost everybody, especially if you're working, you have a job, and you are, probably have your own business, you are in some format of a video call. And,
Right.
For people who actually, do their own marketing, basically will have to learn how to use it for business. So here we are.
Here
we
we
are, face to face.
You have more to say. Rebecca, let me know what has been the 2020 been like for you, and what do you see for 2021?
Well, I'm glad that I get to follow Zeph, because I think it's a absolutely the transparency and the authenticity of being online, and in the video realm, of having to get over that uncomfortableness of being real to people. As you can see behind me, I have a cat tower. I am in my office. This is how I live and work. So getting to see people in their own environments, getting to have that human quality production versus the polished quality production that we're used to seeing. And I think it's broken down a lot of those insecurities that we have, that uncomfortableness that we've had of having to be real in front of people. And I think it's helped those who are in the service-based business be much more accessible to a larger audience, where they may have been, geographically contained prior to. They are now able to do this remotely across the world. So it's, really shifts the dynamic in the relationships that we've had with customers and clients and vendors and all of that. So I think there's been a lot of negatives this year, obviously. However, I think the authenticity and the human connection that we've been able to make because of these digital platforms is really a real positive out of it. And I think we've had stronger relationships across the board.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to hear it be said, and I feel it too, to say that in an online platform, you're able to provide and give and receive an authentic, real experience, because that is something that, again, it's been said before. It's like, oh, when you're online, how do you get that authenticity across and that sort of thing? And I think that there's many ways that has been shown. I'm sitting here with like my grandmother's hutch behind me and a very messy bookshelf.
But I think it gives us a peek into each other's lives.
Each other's lives.
Yeah.
So my life is very work life, very focused. Home life is Brandy. What do you? Same question.
I actually, what was going through my head was a lot of what both Zeph and Rebecca just said, which is there's sort of a duality of reality going on. In some ways we are completely physically disconnected from each other. But yet there is definitely an intimacy, with clients on a Zoom, and certainly with my students. I teach several college classes, and they've all been online, and it's kind of interesting. I've had students say, "Oh, I like that photo behind you," or "What color paint is your wall?" Like these are things that my students would never ever know about me otherwise. And then, it's also just the work from home and ability to work with and from anywhere expands both our worlds and people who are looking to hire, excuse me, companies that are looking to hire. I mean, I had a Zoom last week with someone in Copenhagen. I mean, that would probably never have happened would it not be for the current situation. And I certainly don't mean to make light of what's going on in the world, but I tend to try to always be the optimist. And I've seen a lot of great things happen for myself and a lot of other people during this time. So I think a lot of it is mindset too.
Yeah, a lot of it is mindset, and that's the thing too, is last week when I talked with you, Randy, and we just had like a moment, on live stream where it's just like, wow, I am so grateful to have all these people around me, have this opportunity, and at the same time, I also like, I am constantly like existential dread, I'm like at both ends, right? I'm really, really very fearful, and I'm really, really very hopeful, and we can do both, and to have, to just be able to say, yeah, this is where we're all at right now. Like we're at both ends, somewhere in the middle. It's a big mess, but it's also like an opportunity to live and work differently. Lance, I'm gonna let you. I know we've had a lot of conversations too about like, well, just basically everything, but especially like, what's your take, on 2020 and what's going to happen in 2021 from a work perspective?
So I think with 2020, the coronavirus, which has been sort of everywhere,
yeah,
I think it took a lot of the standards and the ways that we do things and sort of threw them right out the window. So like, and you bring up that we're doing Zoom calls now versus like the regular person handshake, lunch, business lunch type things. What I feel like that's done is it's allowed every person out there that's doing business to sort of reinvent themselves. And the ones that have pivoted, I mean, that might be the word of the year, have been really successful. But here's the other thing, because there are no sort of established rules.
Yeah.
Who has a lot of experience and like, let's say 50 years in a business, and somebody who started yesterday, they're almost on an equal level playing ground. It depends on how they accept the challenges of today.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I have two more guests too, so we're going to just keep asking the question. I love what you said, Zeph, about we have to learn to ride the bike a different way now. Yeah, no, it's true. Like, I think we're riding a whole different bike. I don't even know.
Definitely don't have any training wheels on this one.
Yeah. And hey, so
Hi.
Hey, Chris.
Can I just say, like, we have our crew back. This is what I feel like right now. All right.
Hey.
So I've been asking everybody what they've learned in 2020 and what they think is going to happen in 2021. And then I'm going to kind of like focus on some people as well as to like what's going to be happening with them. Because I know some of you do have like some exciting things happening. And then, yeah, conversation. Chris.
Gosh, thanks. Well, I can speak towards teaching specifically, where I used to teach in the classroom at Gateway, and I taught digital media classes, and transitioning to completely remote teaching really transformed teaching digital media and collaboration and sharing in ways that we're learning the whole course material in less than half the time. And we're also able to help each other just work collaboratively. We're in the classroom. We just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
If we got stuck, I would have to stop class and go and unstick them.
Yeah.
So teaching has been revolutionized, and I can't wait to see how greater it's going to get in that realm. You were asking about other digital trends or that we were seeing.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go around one more time to talk about like what we're seeing as far as digital trends, as far as like things that like takeaway type stuff that we can have. I'm just going to go to Catherine really quickly too, Catherine Suski, and just ask you the same question about what have you learned in 2020?
Well, in 2020, I work in B2B marketing, and conferences were always a large part of the marketing plan, or even face-to-face meetings with clients. And all of that, of course, was totally upended. So having to be more active on the digital front has been more important and will continue to be more important in 2021. It doesn't look like COVID is going to be going away anytime soon, unfortunately. And an interesting thing happened to me in that I lost my job in the fall, but I was able to turn around and start working for a company in London in 6 weeks later, doing consulting work, which is really much more fun than the job that I had so far. So, that's something that was made possible by technology that, turned a bad thing into a not so bad thing.
Right. Yeah. So, it's really interesting, all the different threads that are kind of happening, right? There's definitely a lot of commonality, but then there's also kind of an expansion as well. So we're talking about authenticity. We're talking about geography, like not being an issue. And then we're also talking about the fact that we're working kind of like more closely together and being more collaborative and more helpful and that sort of thing. I know just from like the example of Known, right? It's like we were a co-working space. It was a physical space that we were working in. And each one of us, I think, has either touched it in some way physically, like has come into the building, whether to visit or to work or that sort of thing. And that kind of, for a lot of people, disappeared as an option, right? That it's like, well, I'm going to work from home now. However, by having a strong brand and a strong structure, we were able to bring this digital media sync live streaming event. We were able to bring other events, and we were able to help entrepreneurs as well. So I want to say in 2021, what are some things that, whether it's you personally or what you see, and we have like a whole bunch of time to talk about this, as kind of happening. So like, I probably just want to do the same thing, kind of go around, give a couple minutes to each one of you, and then like you can kind of pick one thing, and then we can like kind of expand upon it. So Zeph, I'm going to start with you again.
Yay. So I'm kind of having a lot of goosies right now because almost everything that we've kind of discussed or, brought up to share has actually been what I've been saying for almost 10 years. And to kind of, kind of follow up on the topic that Catherine brought up, the fact about, having more virtual events and conferences, that way. Yeah. And I actually personally have produced, and then I'll just kind of jump in about working with international teams. So when I started this almost 10 years ago, when we had this other platform and everybody started jumping on this live streaming platform. And that's when I really started to take off in the live video broadcast world, right? Because I saw a way to network not only locally in this small space, but also, and I was able to connect with people and have like really engaging conversations that became sustainable friendships in such a short period of time. And there were times, and I was the one on videos and I'd be saying like, I made friends who are better friends that I've networked in person here, which is hard for many people to connect with until and unless you've experienced it. So an example was the first year when this platform came out, I was able to work with different teams across the globe. And I was able to work with Team Denmark, Team, London, Team Australia. Even though we had like crazy, like time zones, I was able to form that connection, not only connection. And I think the most important thing is we were able to bring up the important topic of conversations, right? So I think moving forward in 2021 and what, Catherine mentioned earlier about all this virtual stuff, a big prediction of mine is that whether you like it or not, if you're a company, especially a company that have leveraged actual in-person vendor events, or conferences or summits, all this will kind of transition a little bit to the online world. Well, not to say that the virtual summits or virtual conferences have not been around for a while. They have been. It's just like the world didn't really catch up to it, right? Because people thought, oh my God, it's too much work. And funny that I just spoke to my girlfriend in London who works in a marketing agency. We were talking because I was talking about moving 2021. I was going to kind of concentrate a little bit more on virtual events. And one of the things she said is that, because I told her it's 50% faster, but 50% less cost and 50% less time to set up such conferences. And funny was she brought this idea to a company in Paris, and they made a mistake by just saying like, okay, we'll not mistake. I say they took on this idea, but what they didn't know was how much processes it takes to set such thing up. So instead of 50% less time, 50% less cost, it took them longer. Why? Because they were working on their own, right? So a lot of these things moving into 2021, what we've had to learn is we've had to learn a lot of these technical stuff, and whether we like it or not. And just like Chris was saying, whether you're a teacher or a professor and you're an educator, you've had to learn how to use all this digital tools to kind of teach and connect with your audience. So moving into 2021, I've really see whether we come back from the quarantines or not, virtual events is going to be a part of everyone's marketing toolbox. It's where we will have that face-to-face conversations. Did we lose her?
Yeah.
I was like, Julie, don't leave me alone.
We're not alone. Everybody was there. And I could see you. Yeah, I booped out for a second, but now I'm good. The wind blew. I don't know. All right, we're all good. So yeah, Rebecca.
Sure. I think I'd like to kind of play off of what Lance said earlier about, pivot being the word of 2020. I think, every year for our agency, we always set a word or intention of what that leads us to where we're going to accomplish things. Obviously, everything we set for 2020 went out the window. And a lot of my clients did have to do that. Obviously, that pivot, everything went online. Everything was new technology to them. They had to think of creative ways in order to shift and stay relevant. I think this year our word is going to be iteration. I think we are going to be looking at shorter, smaller planning cycles when we're looking at, looking at the strategy, keeping those, but the smaller campaign planning strategies and, being more flexible, really looking at the data and the metrics in a quicker cycle than we did before. But the sea change isn't going to go away. We're going to be constantly having to be flexible and agile in order to stay relevant to not only the networks that we belong to, but also the clients and customers that we serve. So it's going to be, iteration all the way into this next year.
You'll love putting that out because I've been talking a lot about that.
I'm like, I know she's gonna say it. But the thing is, whether we say pivot or evolve or use any other kind of word, right? The point is there's going to be a change of some sort, and that change should, hopefully that change means growth, right? And moving forward and going in the right direction. So whatever the word is that we use, it's like just basically like we're going to move forward differently. It just has to happen that way, and I know like philosophically you see a lot online where people are saying, there's like a meme out there or something like that that's basically saying nobody really wants to go back to the way things were because the way things were didn't work then and they're not going to work now. So we really have to take advantage of this time to really be better people, be better businesses, be better brands, be better everything, and just and I'm hoping for the most part, at least I'm glad that the people that I'm around are very, very thoughtful people and do business very thoughtfully. So I'm going to go to Randy.
Yeah, so a couple of things come to mind as all of you were talking. So one thing is I went to the grocery store yesterday, and I don't know about you, but people are just nicer to each other. I'm finding that publicly, whether it's, standing in line, waiting to get into Trader Joe's, or at the cash register at a different grocery store where normally people would be, crabby, cranky. Everybody is just nicer to each other. I think that this is a positive that's come out of this, is that we are all in this together, and it doesn't really matter who you are, how much money you make, where you live, what you do for a living. None of that matters. We are all in this together. So let's just support each other and be kind, The other thing is that what I've been noticing is the evolution of media, like advertising, TV, for example, where it's so obvious. There are a lot of TV commercials that you see now that feel very out of touch with reality. That are, crowds of people gathering and having fun. And, it feels very tone deaf. It feels very like you're just recycling this ad from last year, what one company that's doing it really well, I'm saying to Julia before we started, is Folgers Coffee. They have a series of ads that are really, spot on with what's going on in the world right now. Really fun, really not pandering to COVID,
Yeah.
but it is a part of life now, and for the foreseeable future, it certainly will be. And I think as a brand, and this is part of, Julia, what we talked about last week, that, McKinsey did this study and said that, consumers want to align with companies that are aligned with their own values. And I think that anybody who plays tone deaf right now is risking not being seen positively in the world. Right. But, Folgers Coffee isn't changing the world. But, when you see like mom with a cup of coffee and the kids, and she's trying to go like this to block her kid, or, they have a different ad with a guy who's in a suit and tie, but his camera's pointed down and you can see he's wearing his underwear, and then he realizes it and fixes the camera. I mean, that's life. This is our life for the foreseeable future. And the other thing, from the other half of my life, the academic part, is, students, like, you're going to have to be interviewing for jobs via Zoom. Like, you have to figure this out, you have to understand how to use this technology for your career, not just for your classes. Yeah. So I think going forward, everyone is just going to have to embrace to the extent that you can, or that you have to for the job that you do. Many don't, but people like us do. And get that dirty laundry out of the background, and realize that when you're on camera, you might be home, but you must be professional. And it's your image, just like it's Folger's image on TV, and TV shows as well. There are some that are just, well, we're back in production after COVID, but it isn't playing a part in the story. It isn't, it just feels very tone deaf and very, I'm living on another planet. And so I'm just going to ignore this and it will go away. And I don't think that's a great brand strategy at all.
Right. And there seems to be a lot that's going on, besides COVID as well, without like digging too deep into like politics or anything like that. But there's a lot of things that we cannot ignore, Right. So whether it's, equity, the environment, energy, whatever it is, everything is in play right now. Everything is super important. Everything has to be dealt with and laid out on the table. And it's interesting too, Randy, that you say that like our lived experiences right now is that, you know, like, yeah, when we go to the store and stuff like that, people are very kind and pulling together. But what we see is like that's on TV or online is that there's not the case. That's not the case. However, when we see that it's not the case, we do something about it. You know, so my hope is, again, in that moving forward and that evolving, and I know I'm getting a little philosophical with and not talking on the business side, but my hope is that this is something that really does, that we learn and that it does continue, that we do. Lance, can you unmute yourself? I just wanted to say that at least once.
I hear it at least 2 or 3 times a day. And before this, most people wanted me to mute myself. So I just wanted to comment on what Randy was saying about the Folgers commercials. I did see them. They are funny. They are cute. They are endearing. I think one of the challenges with a lot of commercials is a lot of commercials tend to play on humor. And as much as you'd like to make humor relevant with today's coronavirus is like a really kind of awful thing that like a lot of people have died. So to make the humor work like Folgers has done successfully, you really have to thread the needle of, you know, where you're putting the sort of punchline, if you will, or and sort of connect with the more human side of it. Because, you know, back in the day when this first started, there were a lot of like, you know, Corona beer jokes and so forth. And, you know, that at the time before it really touched people, that some people might have snickered at, clearly not funny now, or not funny then actually. But that's one of the big things. The other thing I've noticed is as a lot of the sort of social norms and so forth have sort of fallen away, a lot of people have sort of like looked at other stuff that wasn't being looked at before.
Mm-hmm.
So you see obviously a lot of social issues that are being addressed last year that may not have been as fully addressed. One of them that I'm running into a lot is privacy, because that's going to be a big issue with a lot of the websites that I'm making, because there's privacy laws. If you put your email or any information onto a website, you have to let people know what's happening to that in every step of the way. And the other one, which I almost feel horrible that like I wasn't really into beforehand, was a lot of the web development for the Americans with Disabilities Act, because that's like a voice that, you know, may not have been as loud as it was when all the other sort of noise of 2019 was around. So those are the things I've seen a lot more social issues being addressed with like effort. Not that there wasn't effort before, but a lot more emphasis on it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Lance, because I notice more now than ever. And one of our people that I haven't brought on, but I brought on different digital media things a couple of times, is Sharon Rosenblatt, and she works with a company called Accessibility Partners. And I brought her on in April, and she did a presentation about, you know, websites being accessible, because now, you know, if that's all you have available to you, and I'm noticing like how many, like even politicians or shows or anything like that. I mean, even here, you know, we don't have the ticker across the bottom with the closed caption. I think on YouTube it does automatically. And that's just something like, it took Facebook a while to do that automatically, is to have, you know, closed caption available so that people can read what we're saying right now. And then also like making presentations more available, what you use for color, you know, on your presentation, you know, so all these sort of things. And I'm going to drop this here. I know it sounds like an advertisement, but whatever. But one of the digital media things, I do have Sharon's presentation, but I really want to make sure that that stays in the front. Again, it's one of those things that, yes, you're right. It's something that we don't think about all the time. And now we really do, because this is like, there's really important information that's being conveyed. And when I see people going out and talking about like business opportunities or financial help or help, information, and you don't see the availability or the accessibility there where that information is accessible, to everybody, in some way. So, yeah.
And I will say just real quickly that, with every state official and politician doing like briefings like every day, I
Yeah.
found respect for sign language interpreters.
Right.
Because they disseminate information like fast and furious, and the
So
sign
quickly.
language keep right up there with it. So
Yeah. So quickly. Chris, I'm gonna go to you now.
I'll just add to the accessibility how important it is more than ever to make sure that our websites we're making are accessible, and to the hearing, vision impaired, and also the fact that we're consuming our information purely digitally now on the go.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure screen readers can make sense through a website, making sure all of the images are tagged appropriately. SEO more important than ever with competition online, and just making things right and really paying attention to privacy, like Lance said.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that's definitely like so important. And all of these issues are, and I'm already thinking about for 2021, like what are things that we have to revisit or continue to talk about, and what kind of expertise and experience do we want to continue to push forward, particularly in this arena right here, because we have the voice to do so. Catherine, I'm going to ask you, 2021, what do we see for trends?
Well, I want to follow up on what Chris said about competition. Everyone is going to be doing more digital marketing activity. So, and a lot of people need to do more with less money, because let's face it, this hasn't been like a blockbuster year for a lot of people. So I think in a way it's time to also return to fundamentals in marketing, like knowing exactly who your audience is. If you're a restaurant trying to promote takeout, maybe you don't advertise like in all of New Haven County. Maybe you choose to advertise to women who are within 10 miles of your business, depending on if you're trying to attract like a family type of market, or, depending on what your demographics are. But it's really important to hone in on who your customers are and who you want them to be. So don't cast an overly broad net. It's really time to be specific and focus your dollars on what's most likely to get the best results.
It's good.
Is Julia frozen?
I think so.
I think it is.
I think she
I
is.
was trying to say, like,
Welcome back.
do I need to keep talking?
This is why I should be in the office and not at home. There we go. So there's that. But I heard everything that Catherine said as well. Yeah, and I think that's something that we all have said at some point, right? Knowing who your target audience is. These are all like what all the fundamentals are. So that's definitely something I think in 2021. Yeah, that's never going to change. The fundamentals. Rebecca, I know. I thank you.
Well, I was going to pick up on that with Catherine too. I think, you talk about knowing your audience. I think it's so important too, to really fine tune and adjust and change your value proposition to your audience too, because of the way that everything has shifted. And, really understanding how to differentiate yourself. There is a lot more, competition out there. Everyone's vying and using the same tools. Our toolbox got a little smaller. And so I think it's really, really important to make sure that you are super clear, super specific as to what your value proposition is and how you serve that target audience to differentiate yourself from everyone else.
And I think, one of the biggest challenges is trying to get everybody. It may sound simple, but it's not as simple as it sounds. Because this is, when I started with live video broadcasting, one of the big challenges we talked about and a lot was, how do we connect in a very authentic way, right? Because now these platforms are all very cold. It's technology. Now, how do we bring that essence? Because part of that, having the right conversation, having a specific way to connect with people. And I'm going to tell you just a tip and sharing with everybody right here. If I'm on a Zoom call and you're like looking here and there, I'm not connecting with you. Do you know what I mean? Or if I'm on a live broadcast like this, and somebody's speaking, I'm telling everybody like who uses or leverages live videos or, getting on a video, whatever, when you're talking to your audience, because it's that connection, right? You're having a conversation. Imagine if you're sitting down at a cafe, do you look at your friend when you speak or you look at whoever you're speaking to? So people have had to learn, I feel, and will continue to learn. And one of the things that I started many years ago when I started my business was a virtual internship, right? So I had a lot of interns around the world. And a big part of the conversation was like, hey, HR, not only HR teams, but also, students who just graduates who are, going for an online interview. You just got to know how to connect with the other person on the camera, right? And a lot of it has to do with just connecting authentically. And sometimes it's just the eye connection and things like this, little things, having conversations, connection, because that's what's going to separate you from the other person who does exactly what you do, right? And the recent event that I was in, I said, one of the big reasons at the event, I said I wanted to do live video broadcasts because I said at the end of the day, because this is the tool and platform that we have to use to connect with our audience, what's going to help the audience to decide to do business with you or buy from you, right? Because there'll be maybe 10 Mary Kay or any kind of direct selling, competition out there. Like, why would I do business with you? It's how you connect, number one, and also how you service your audience and clients. That's basically what it'll come down to in 2021. And we will all have to learn. And one of the industries that can really leverage this is, restaurants, because restaurants are hurting right now, right? But they don't necessarily know how to do it. They show up on camera, but it's not connecting necessarily. So they have to, many, small businesses, all these different industries are not familiar to being on camera. We'll just have to learn how to have that authentic conversation and connect with the audience. Does that make sense? Because I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges I've had, is getting people to like, you got to connect with your audience, smile, and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
I had to go through some growing pains of my students with their children in the camera and them doing the dishes and doing the laundry. And then I just came to the conclusion that this is life and this is what's going to happen, and just deal with the extras that come involved.
Yeah, I've seen quite a number of cat butts on
cat butt, dog butt.
classrooms, quote unquote classrooms, grandmothers in the background, screaming kids. But
Fire alarm.
Real life. And I've had a situation where I always try to remember to turn my phone off, but I don't always. So my phone has rung, One of my neighbors, has come to my door, and this is what I meant by duality. We're both more disconnected than ever, but also more entwined in each other's personal lives than ever. So it's this weird, I just keep calling it duality. It's this weird duality that we have to figure out on this continuum of where are we at any given moment in time. And we're all learning. I mean, students are learning also, and as are we.
I love that, I don't know who mentioned it earlier, but in our conversation, somebody mentioned about, this being real, and it's about the mindset. And I think, Chris, part of all our growing pains is that I know when I even started my journey, I was like, is this like good for people to watch? Like, we have cats, we have people walking through, but then absolutely, it's part of life, who we are. But also on the other spectrum of things, right? We, the one on camera, also have to be mindful and weigh things out. It's all about setting up boundaries, right? It's the mindset. Is this a live broadcast that connects? Is just like, woohoo, I just want to share my life with you? Or is this a broadcast that will showcase you or highlight you as the expert? What is it? So if it's the latter, then we have to be mindful about how we show up for the other person on camera. If it's an interview, be a little bit more professional. But if it's just business and a part of a conversation like we're having, hey, we're at the cafe, so what? If we saw your show, say hi, bye, I love that essence, because people get to see the real us,
Right.
But also at the same time, there are boundaries and the way, we think, because, hey, we're working from home, whatever goes, but not all the time works like that, because we kind of have to show up for our clients, right? If it's a $10 million client, do we want to show up like that? So those are the questions that we ask.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's really interesting. And you all know how I work, right? When I've gotten on a call with, you, Rebecca, or Randy, or, any one of you, and it's like the first thing I do is laugh because, and it's joyful, right? I'm so happy to, and especially now, I'm so happy to talk to you. Oh my goodness,
the human being
that I know, and I know that I'm going to have, just like a really good conversation, and whether it's like very serious or whether it's something where it's just like, let's just chit chat for a little bit first and then get into the business, because yes, life, and I think for some of us, or maybe all of us, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but I know, like, I was in a corporate world for a period of time, and I hated, right? There's the difference between having boundaries and having barriers, right? So for me, it was like having these barriers, and whatever they are, glass ceiling barrier, not moving barrier, not having enough flexibility. I was a mom both in the corporate world, and I was a mompreneur, and that was a whole set of issues. And it's like, look, I do my work and I do my job, and I run a business and I do all these things, but I also have other things that are priorities as well. And I will deal with each priority. So, I'm like, nobody push me back. I'm moving forward with all of this, that sort of thing. So that was like, I think, something that everybody's kind of getting to see for realsies now. Like, real life is right here. It's always been right here. Before, we could push it away and push it back and make rules against it and barriers and this thing and that thing. And now it's like, nope, it's happening. It's happening because we have something that we're all dealing with right now. There's one thing that has evened the playing field for everybody. And the pandemic has evened the playing field, and it's just kind of laid everything bare. And it's like, what do we do to build up?
Mm-hmm.
It has, but it also has brought to light a lot of, for some of my students who may not have reliable Wi-Fi or didn't have a laptop and relied on being able to go to school and use the computers there, people who live in rural areas who would normally drive to an urban or at least suburban park, right, to go to work. So I think it also has shown how fragile some elements of society are, and especially those in communities that are not typically supported, like rural, and it's brought to light the places in society that need more support, whatever that support might be, whether it's Wi-Fi, whatever it might be. A lot of us who are digitally inclined and who do this with clients and have been living this life, maybe not necessarily video, but who have been working from home for such a long time and have home offices with equipment, there's much of society that has never done this before.
Right.
And so, I think one of the things I learned this year more than anything was to be patient. And I'm not typically a very patient person, but I realized that I can't impose like your term paper is late if your Wi-Fi went down. And it happened to me one day during class. My Wi-Fi just died in the middle of class. I was like, everything, So it happens to all of us, and that's kind of an equalizer, but yet it also shows
at the same time. Yeah. No, again, it's just like really like, we're seeing a lot of that, right? There's like this and this, right? And like we're thinking about it from like, not from like this, but this and this, right? And then what we're doing is we're like, we're going to have to do something about that. Okay. I saw your note, Zeph. It looked up. I'm like, oh, okay. So I think
that glance.
Did you see that? I'm like, what's going on over there?
I know, because you just pause and go like, oh, that's so light.
Like, oh, wait, huh? But that's the other thing too. So I think this is a good segue into like, what have we all learned? Like, can we say like I think we all pretty much have to leave around 9:30. That's when I'm supposed to kind of cut this off, but then I don't. But I think it's like, what have we learned, right? So for me, I think from a technology standpoint, this is a good segue. I've learned how to use StreamYard. I've learned how to produce a live stream.
And you do it well.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'll pop out of it every once in a while. But
stay fluid.
So this was something for me. It was a learning experience to, I'm in the digital world, but I'm used to being in the background. When I'm used to being up in front of people, it's in a room presenting, and it's like, it's eyes on me, but at the same time, knowing that people are going to communicate with me face to face, like we are now. Like, this is what I'm used to. What I'm not used to is having this kind of like vast unknown ocean of people. I don't know what
buttons to push.
And I'm like pushing buttons, and I'm like, look at the camera, and I'm like, who's even looking and watching? And can you just like ask me a question because I want to have a conversation? I did a lot of scary things.
I live to tell.
One, please.
You've done it well. And I think this is why, we all kind of our growing pains came from, and our learning curve, right, comes from a place where there's a need to learn something new, because we need to have that particular solution to kind of, evolve. That's what I'm kind of throwing it again. So, whether we like it or not, we just have, it's just like whether we like to wear underwear or not, you have to wear it, so it's that kind of thing. And I always joke about it, and people say, like, but you're right. I'm like, it's the truth, whether we like it or not, you have to brush your teeth. So stuff like that, I know for me, I've had to learn, like, one of the big things I learned in 2020 is the fact that this year, everyone's been overwhelmed, stressed out to the limit. And sometimes all it takes is to kind of simplify, 1 to 3 things, and I told, I kind of like when I did this vendor event, I told everybody, I'm here to set everything up for you. All you need to do is show up and do your thing. Let me do my thing. And I think people needed to hear that this year. It's just like, because, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of new things. So like, oh my God, how do I do this? What platform? I'm like, no. Let me do this for you. You just show up and do your best thing. And sometimes it's just showing up and sharing a few things about what they do. So that's my takeaway from 2020 when I work with my clients or people out there. Everyone's overwhelmed, everyone's stressed out, and sometimes they just need someone to just kind of hold their hand and go like, it'll be okay, I'll take you through this threshold, but you just need to show up, and that's all we need you to do. So that's what it is.
That's a wonderful wrap up from you, Zeph. Yeah, I feel like we all do this, like all of us right here, and there are others who are not on camera right now who do that thing, right? It's like, and that's what I love about my colleagues, my business colleagues. It's just like, let me just do the thing and you do your thing, but I'll do my thing and just go over there. You're fine. I'll handle this.
And then learn to save the half-hour explanation of what I did and how I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Exactly. They
don't need to know how the sausage was made.
Exactly. And then sometimes I don't know if anyone has ever experienced this, like, and this is the truth, even me, like, I want to learn something new, like, let's just say, let's put it out there. Hey, can you teach me how to do this SAO thing? At the end of the lesson, I go like, you'll just do it for me. Okay. It's just like, just do it for me. Okay. Faster, I'll get better results. I'll just show up as me, and I think 2020 has been that for many people. Many people, because sometimes taking on one small thing is a lot for everyone who's going through this year. So, sometimes it's just like having a hand there and go like, what, it's okay. I'll be there for you. What can I do for you? And I think that's what we have. I know I'm going to take that on into 2021. And that's what's going to differentiate me from the other person who goes like, hey, I'm over here,
Catherine, 30 seconds. I know it's 9:30 and you also have to go. What'd you learn?
Well, you got to think on your feet, if you're doing a live webinar and something terrible happens, just let it go and keep going. Or if one thing doesn't work, then forget it. Try something else. You can't quit or you're out of business, right?
Yeah. You just gotta move forward the best you can.
Yeah.
And also knowing that there's days where, and I know there have been a few days, and I'll raise my hand to say that I'll admit it, like I have not wanted to get up out of bed that particular day. Like at all. Oh my goodness, Rick, can you come on? Rick just said compassion. Is his lesson.
Yeah, I agree with Rick. Compassion, that's huge. Kindness and compassion.
Yeah, for sure. That is so huge, right? Because just like I said, there are days when we all nodded our head, or it's just like, oh my goodness, I just cannot do this right now. I cannot.
I have no more bandwidth.
I have to get going.
All right. Thank you for fun. Yeah.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Bye.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Yeah. Thank you for I think we need to have more of these.
Yeah.
Fun.
We can do this like, you know, and I have to like rotate more people in as well, because there's new people that I met even this year, you know, as well. Rick Callahan being one of them, and I don't know if he just popped in or he's coming like, yeah, I don't know. He knows how to get here. But Rick from Creative has really been super helpful too with helping me figure out like what I'm doing and what my role is, right? Because my role has usually been a lot of implementation, right? Like I'll do the work, I'm doing the work. Whereas now it's more, I feel like I'm in more of like a consultative and educational role where I'm still doing implementation, but I'm like, I have processes that I've used. There's learning that I've had. I can take this and apply it in a much different manner. And I'm wondering, like Chris, I know you are like,
Yeah.
the best, you know, and Randy too. Like I've seen the both of you really kind of like take that into a role where you're the teacher.
Yeah. It's nice to give my hand a break and finally realize that, you know, I already have this thing that I can package differently and help other people.
Yeah, and Rebecca, I've seen you package this differently as well. So this is your segue to talk about how you package things differently.
Well, you know, we've had to do obviously a lot more. I don't know how to describe packaging, but you know, our focus has shifted a lot this year as to what we needed to do for our clients, and it did shift into more education and a lot more of the hands-on of, you know, showing, you know, so using the video tools. But one thing that we did do was start a podcast with a colleague of mine, because we both do similar things. We have some overlap. We have some complementary services, but really thought, you know, how do we educate people in ways that they want to learn? And me not being favorite of being on video too much and being on Zoom far too often, you know, I thought, well, a podcast is something that they can listen to as they're working or on the treadmill or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So for small businesses, we've started a podcast, which is premiered this morning, I should say. And we're working on getting that up and for everyone's consumption.
Put up the link.
So
Yeah,
okay,
Put up the link. Can you put it up in the comment section?
it's not letting me.
Can you put it up in the Facebook comment section? And then I'll take it and I'll put it up.
Here, I put it in the private chat. Can you put it in the comments?
Yeah, I put it in. Yes, that's perfect.
And if I have,
marketspacepodcast.com.
yeah, marketspacepodcast.com.
Cool. Congratulations.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, so we have 3 episodes in the bag and ready for people to listen to. We talked a lot about, you know, what it's like to market in COVID. So a lot of what we talked about here this morning. And then we did a bit about politics and business and how to wade into those dangerous waters. And then also, you know, trends and things that we're seeing, you know, going.
I'm very excited about the politics and business.
And then our first one of 2021 features Miss Julia. So we're excited to have Julia as our first guest.
Perfect debut.
We'll be putting that one out in the first week of January.
So can I just say, I had so much fun
It was fun.
doing that one.
We had a good time, and you'll hear it in the podcast. So yeah. So feedback would be lovely.
Very laughing. Lance, what did you learn in 2021? What do you got going on with your?
So the main thing that I've learned is like every time I turn on the TV or the radio, they always say, well, this is the new normal. And then a week later, they say this is the new normal, and it's different than the week before. And I think what I've come to the conclusion is there is no long-standing new normal. The new normal is always fluid. And going forward with what I'm working on, a lot of what I had were like very defined, segmented roles. And that's sort of just falling apart and becoming like we're much more fluid in some of the services that we offer. instead of you fit like package A, package B, package C, it's what do you need today? And then what do you think you need next week? And we can only guess about next month.
We can do what we can do.
So that's sort of what my lesson is, that it's completely fluid, and we absolutely expect it to keep changing.
Nope, that is definitely it's definitely the truth. All right, any that sounded kind of morbid what I was going to say. I was like, any last words? Any last thoughts? Any parting words of wisdom?
I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think the importance of network, and not only your personal networks, your professional networks, and all of the different networks that we all belong to, but how not only to get support and inspiration and, collaboration from those networks, but also how to give it. Because it's got to be a two-way street. And, there are days, like you said, Julia, where you just feel like I can't do it today.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We all have those days, and we have to be mindful of that some days just, our network can't do it for us, but we need to show up too when we can and help others.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when we have our off day, right? If we each let each other have that day where it's just like, I just got to gather my strength. I just got to and then that way we can tag in when our colleague and our friend does the same thing, where it's just like, this is not the day for me. Can you just let it be? And I've done that with my business partner at Agents of Branding. I think we've each had, especially in the beginning, it's just like, I don't know. It's dread. I just can't pick myself up and try to do this thing that's considered normal. It feels like it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't matter as much. And the thing is, it's that, in the greater sense, everything, it all does matter. It's just the way that we do it and the space that we provide.
And we don't have an infinite amount of energy to give to everything all the time.
Yeah.
We need to group. Yeah. And be mindful.
Reserve some for yourself.
Yeah, because Rick said compassion, but I think it goes to yourself as well as to everyone else.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, where we were saying, don't be so hard on ourselves, because it's like, business does not have to be brutal. Again, we're not in a space where, again, I personally, I left that space. Randy, did you leave that space? Who else? Did anybody else leave?
Yeah, I was corporate for a very long time.
You were.
Yep, in banking, no less.
Oof.
You just really can't get more corporate than that. I look back at that in my life and I say, what? What's that? That was never the real me. It just was the me that I sort of fell into and got promoted. And, the next thing you know, you turn around, you're a vice president with a $6 million budget. And, you give your blood and your guts to a company that, I was an officer. I mean, my signature was assured and all of that. And, we were filing an IPO and I was supposed to be really wealthy. But instead, the company that owned us, 51%, right? They decided to ditch the IPO and instead they sold us off to a competitor. So rather than be wealthy, I was unemployed. So that, that was kind of the last kick in the butt that I did to say, this is not for me. This is just not how I want to live, or the people I want to spend my time, so much time with, especially. So, but everything happens and teaches you a lesson, hopefully.
Cool. All right. So, Wow, it's 9:42. Do we all have to go to work, or can we just all stay here and just chat anyway?
I'm supposed to be on vacation, but when you work
Yeah.
out of your home and the door's always open.
Right.
Right. No. Well, it was funny because can I just say, don't everybody fall over. I was off of my computer for 4 days.
No.
I was off of my computer for 4. Granted, I had my phone with me, but like whatever.
Right.
But it was
Did you have withdrawals?
What's that?
Did you have withdrawals?
No, it was like really. It was kind of scary because on the third day, I looked at my computer and I just went, nah. And usually it's like Saturday and Sunday. Like it's so interesting too how we're like, oh, like, we're working for ourselves and we make our own hours and everything. And it's like, I didn't finish this thing on Friday, so I can open my computer on Saturday. That's fine. And then I'll just like close it up again. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Something
Yeah.
that I started doing about 2 years ago was I just call it Sacred Sunday, and that for those 24 hours I unplug.
Yeah.
I don't work. I'm on my phone, of course, and I'm doing personal things, but I have made it. It's my creative day. It's my day to just take care of my soul. And just stay in my pajamas all day if I want to, or
Right.
but not work. Because when you do work from home, there are people that will push those boundaries if you allow that. And I think having firm boundaries with anyone is very important to living a good quality of life, unless it doesn't bother you. But it started to bother me.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I am off limits on Sunday. Absolutely off limits.
Good for
I do
you.
that Saturday, Randy. So
Well, I teach on Saturdays, so I can't. But I wish I could do it for both days. But
Yeah.
I always have a Saturday morning class. So, for me, it's just really important to unplug. And it was hard in the beginning. It
Yeah.
was almost a matter of habit. Get up, have coffee, turn on your computer, and then it's like, oh, nope, it's Sunday, not going to do it.
Yeah. Lance, do you like ever unplug? I feel like you're always on call because you do all that web stuff. Or do you give yourself room?
I do. There are days I lock my office door and I don't walk in. But I will say again, with the whole lack of normal and the whole 9 to 5 sort of being sort of the boundaries of people, I find that my office phone will ring at midnight with people.
Yeah.
So as a sort of standard 9 to 5 hours ago, everybody else has just sort of assumed that, well, it's 11:30. I'm working. Somebody else should be working.
Right.
I mean, I don't answer it because that would be
Right.
just a little weird. But yeah, I'm getting a lot more of that, text messages. I'm getting them in the way early hours of the morning. So, but I do have to plug and leave.
Yeah.
I love that. Saying that you lock your office door and just walk away.
It's metaphorical. It's not really a lock.
No, but that's fine. I mean,
just shutting the door is
Yeah.
important.
yeah. I'm shutting that part of the door of my mind.
The disconnect.
It does help that I have a separate room that has a boundary where some people
Right.
live in sort of an open floor plan. They can never
Mhm.
it's always in the corner. Yeah, that's harder for some people and would be harder for me.
Yeah, I had a separate room, but I have a new cat and I put her litter box in there for now so that she has a safe space that's not the basement where I would lose her. So now that's not my office anymore.
It's her office.
So your cat took over your office is what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah. Cats do that.
What is the new normal today?
All right. Well, I'm not going to take up any more of your time, even though like I want to, but whatever.
Yeah, I have a 10 o'clock.
I was going to say everybody's got something to do. I have things to do. I just want to thank all of you again for joining me on this very important show.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
It was nice meeting both of you too.
You
Happy
as well.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Bye,
everybody out
Laura.
there. We will see you next year. Goodbye.
Ta-ta.
Bye.
Bye.